If you've been thinking about upgrading your equipment, you need to watch this first. The gap between the photos you're taking and the photos you want to take almost certainly has nothing to do with the equipment that you're holding. It has everything to do with three things, none of which require you to spend a single dime. That's what this video is all about. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly where the real work is in photography, and I promise it's not the camera store. We're covering light, composition, settings, and the one skill that will return more improvement per hour of practice than anything else you could do right now. If you're new here, welcome. I'm Karen. I taught myself photography, and I built a 13-year portrait business, and I'm here to make photography so much less complicated to learn. And if you want to see real improvement with your photography right now, Click with Confidence is my quick 90-minute course built specifically for beginner photographers who want a clear, simple foundation with no overwhelm. There's no fluff, no confusing jargon, just the stuff that actually matters at the beginning. The link is below. But first, let me tell you about the Canon 6D I bought because somebody explained crop sensors to me and I panicked because it's a perfect example of what gear obsession actually costs you. And I'm not just talking about money. I started out with a Canon Rebel, as many beginner photographers do. I had 2 kit lenses and I was ready to go. But then somebody told me about crop sensors versus full frame cameras, and suddenly I felt like I was working at a reduced capacity. Then my brother, who taught me photography, tried to explain to me focal length equivalence and crop sensor math, and it just felt like a foreign language to me. So I upgraded to a Canon 6D. It was a full frame camera body at a fraction of the price of the Canon 5D Mark III. So at the time, it felt like that was a massive leap forward for me. But once I got my new camera, there were more buttons and dials and modes that I had no clue what to do with. And my photos weren't really dramatically better because I wasn't dramatically better yet. But here's the thing, I was getting better as a photographer around that same time. So my camera body actually got all the credit for my improvement that it really didn't earn. Could I actually tell a difference between my Canon Rebel photos and the 6D photos? Well, honestly, not without checking the metadata. See, a camera body is not the limiting factor at the beginning stage. The photographer is. And that's really good news if you think about it. There's a reason camera gear feels like the answer when it really isn't. Photography culture leads with gear. There's reviews, comparisons, and upgrade guides pretty much everywhere. And as a beginner, I imagined that professional photographers were walking around with 5-figure gear bags. And I felt inferior because I felt like my amateur equipment was making my photos look amateur as well. I no longer have the Canon 6D. I eventually did upgrade to a Canon 5D Mark III and Mark IV. But if I were to put the same lens on both a Canon Rebel and an upgraded camera body, I really wouldn't be able to tell the difference unless I checked the metadata. If I'm shooting in the same modes, the results are almost identical, other than the full frame versus the crop sensor factor. Nobody can look at a finished photo and tell you what camera body you used to shoot it. The story of your photo has nothing to do with the equipment that you shot it with or how much it cost. So here's what a Canon Rebel can actually do. Entry-level camera bodies like the Canon Rebel are genuinely capable of beautiful images. More expensive camera bodies do come with more megapixels oftentimes, they have a wider ISO range, and they typically have better autofocus. Those things are all real, but the average viewer can't identify a better or worse camera body when viewing a finished photo. What matters more is the lens that you're using on your camera body, your settings, and the lighting. So the camera body is not what's limiting you right now. So let's talk about the kit lenses that come with most of these entry-level camera bodies. Image quality isn't as crisp and aperture limitations are real. But before you write yours off completely, explore the full focal range of the zoom kit lenses that you have. An 18 to 55mm kit lens, such as this one, can cover a broad range between wide angle and moderate telephoto, and they give dramatically different looks at each end of your zoom. And a 55 to 250mm kit lens, which I don't have available to show you at the moment, those zoom lenses give you real reach and are able to give you better background compression when you're trying to create that beautiful blurry background in your portraits. So different focal lengths change how the background looks, how your scene feels, and how your subject is isolated. So if you want more background blur in your image, just use a longer focal length. Most beginners tend to leave their kit lenses at one end of the zoom or the other, but they're missing a lot of opportunity because they're not experimenting with the different focal lengths that they have available. So try shooting at 18mm or 55mm or 250mm and see what changes in your image. This experiment alone will teach you so much more than watching a tutorial or reading a manual. The truth is, you can overexpose, underexpose, and completely miss focus on a $5,000 camera, the same as you can on an entry-level camera body. I know because I did exactly that after upgrading to my Canon 6D. I didn't know where all the buttons were, and there were more settings in my camera than I knew what to do with. The camera was objectively better, but my photos weren't. See, once you learn how to shoot manual and partial manual modes, the logic transfers to any camera body. It's the settings knowledge that transfers. So the camera body just changes the buttons that you press and where they're located. So if you learn how to master your settings first, the gear will still be there when you're ready to upgrade. Lighting your images is the one thing that can change your images the most dramatically, and it costs you nothing. In my early days of shooting, I used to shoot nature and landscape at blue hour on the weekends, and I loved those photos. There was something about the lighting in them that I just couldn't explain, and I didn't realize it at the time, but it was the lighting that made me love those images. Fast forward to a few years later when I was shooting portraits for clients at 3 p.m. because that's when they were available and I was available. Those images were technically fine, but they were completely uninspiring. There was no wow factor, even though there was adequate light and they were adequate photos. When I finally started scheduling my clients at golden hour, that's when everything changed. Not because of the new gear, but because the light was doing something intentional. Lighting isn't just about if there's enough of it. It's about direction and quality and how it falls on your subject. Good lighting adds depth and dimension, and it creates a natural separation between your subject and the background. It makes autofocus work better, it reduces your need for a higher ISO, and it makes your exposure easier to nail. And natural light is completely free. A window, an open doorway, or shooting at golden hour, all of these lighting situations create beautiful, flattering light. And here's another thing. Gear can't decide where to put your subject in the frame. That's entirely you. Composition also costs you nothing and dramatically improves your photos with whatever camera body you're using. There are two things that instantly make your photos look intentional, regardless of the camera you're using. And these are subject distance and straight horizons. If you give too much space around your subject and they're too far away, your subject ends up losing all the attention in the photo. And if your subject is too close, you end up losing context of the environment that they're in and how that can add to your photo. So finding a middle ground where you're not too close and not too far away from your subject gives a little bit of context of where they're at, and it helps add to your image while also placing the majority of the focus on your subject. And let's talk about straight horizons. A crooked horizon makes a technically excellent photo look amateur. It doesn't matter how good everything else is, a crooked horizon screams that nobody was paying attention. These are free decisions that you make before you press the shutter. See, composition is a skill built entirely on practice and attention, and it costs you nothing. Improvement with your photography happens in layers, not all at once. Exposure is usually the improvement that comes first because it has a short feedback loop. Your results are immediately visible, but composition, focus, and lighting take longer. They require slowing down and being deliberate before your shot is taken, not just reacting and shooting whatever is in front of you. And those skills develop after exposure stops demanding all of your mental energy. The photographers who improve fastest are those that consistently practice with what they have. They pay attention to what's working and they make one intentional decision at a time. Every session teaches you something that the last one didn't, but only if you're paying attention. If you only work on one thing right now, let it be lighting every time, because lighting touches everything. Exposure, autofocus, how your subject looks, and how the background reads. Get the lighting right and a lot of other things start falling into place. Start by observing before you pick up the camera, where the light's coming from, what it's doing, and how it falls on your subject. Make a decision about the light instead of just accepting what happens to be there. Move your subject, change your angle, wait for better light. Just be intentional. That one habit practiced consistently will change your photos faster than any gear upgrade ever could. The photos that I took in my early days that made me fall in love with photography were shot with a Canon Rebel and a kit lens, but it was the light that did everything. At some point, practicing on your own feels like circling the same questions without getting any answers. And that's the moment a structured foundation actually accelerates things. Click with Confidence is 90 minutes and it's built specifically for that moment, not for photographers who've been shooting for years, but for the ones who are still at the beginning. If you're feeling like there's a whole unspoken body of knowledge that you somehow missed, that's exactly who Click with Confidence is for. It shows you what matters at the beginning and what can wait, so the whole thing feels a lot less overwhelming. You don't know what you don't know, so Click with Confidence is designed to show you exactly where to start. So, to wrap up, better photos are not waiting for you at the camera store. They're waiting for you in the light that you choose, the composition decisions that you make, and the settings you learn to control intentionally. Whatever you're shooting on, your camera is good enough, and your kit lenses probably have more range than you're currently using. And the single highest return skill you can develop right now costs you nothing. So go find some good light. Click with Confidence is linked below when you're ready to build the foundation that makes it all click faster. And if you've made it this far, drop me a comment below and tell me what's the one piece of gear that you're convinced you have to buy before you can take better photos. I read every single one. Okay, I'll see you next time.